guys.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the C.L. Bryant Show. I am C.L. Bryant. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming along with us on this journey here today. We are streaming live from the jeweled cities of the Arklatex, Shreveport, and Bossier, and streaming live throughout the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, and that is America. You folks in Wilmington, North Carolina, and also you folks there in southern Arkansas, East Texas, I want to thank you for being there with us as well. Soon, and very soon, we're going to be coming to cities like Denver, Pittsburgh, even Birmingham. Birmingham has been added to the list, and Phoenix. We're going to be looking at going in where we are, looking at going into those cities. And, of course, we're taking all of you along with us. And thank you for making us so popular here in the Arklatex. Hey, folks, let me tell you about the worst thing that could happen. The worst thing that can happen, and we're seeing it play out on television right now in your news slots and throughout the news media. And it's surrounding promises. It's surrounding promises made and promises that very well could be broken. And those are some things that we cannot afford to allow to happen at this point in time. And you may have seen the interview with Mike Lee, Rand Paul, Louis Gohmert. Our good friend Louis Gohmert was there, along with Dave Bratt and Jim Jordan. They were all there. I'll be with those same men on the 15th of March there at the Capitol building there in D.C. But the worst thing that could happen is that the American people, the citizens, the voters, you, me, began to realize or think within ourselves that there is no real Wizard of Oz. There's just somebody behind the curtain manipulating the levers. Paul Ryan, Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, although Harry's gone and John Boehner's gone, but you have Paul Ryan, who so many grassroots people think is Boehner Jr., and you still have Mitch McConnell there, and in place of Harry Reid, you have Chuck Schumer. They had become friends. Yes, they had become friends, and they had become comfortable in that friendship. There's no other way to explain how over a 6-year period of time, with Republicans holding the House and the Senate, that we come up with Obamacare Light as the replacement for the health care package, the affordable health care package that was formerly known as Obamacare, just like the artist formerly known as Prince. Still the same thing. Still the same music. Just a different name, just a different label on it. And this is a message that is being sent, and I hope they hear it from the American people, because the worst thing that can happen is that Democrats and Republicans are exposed to being the same or one in the same. That's a problem. Now, as much as you know that I have been a proponent here these last 8, 9, 10 months of the president, I'm still a proponent of the president, so don't anybody go crazy with what I'm about to say. But he needs to watch what he's saying about becoming a politician, because we did not send him to that office. We did not give him that office because we looked at him that way. We looked at our president as a statesman. a modern day statesman that defied the gravity of politics. That is why he is there. That is why Hillary Clinton lost. And all the other 16 dwarfs that were on the stage with Donald Trump, the one thing all 16 others of them had in common is that every one of them, including Ted Cruz, the one that I was in favor of, that's the train I was on initially, a national surrogate for him. All of them were politicians. And standing center stage from day one of the debates was one shining star of a statesman. It took the rest of us a while to get used to him and the way he did things, but the reason why we got used to him and the way he did things is because we came to the realization that he was not a politician. And so when we look at the affordable health care deconstruction, and when we look at what Republicans are now bringing back to the table as its replacement, friends, I want you to be honest and look at this closely, because this is definitely one that you can read before it's voted on. Look at whether or not this is truly something that you sent them to Washington to do.
1 minute.
And hey, listen, we still have the bully pulpit in our hands. We have to send messages. If not now, when we have the presidency, Republicans, conservatives, when we have the presidency, when we have the House of Representatives, when we have the Senate, and we have really the goodwill of most Americans for positive change, let's not let them lose focus. I'm going to be back with candidate for District 8, Louisiana House of Representatives, Raymond Cruz, when I return.
Been waiting for the bus all day.
CL, back with you here on this Tuesday in the jewel cities of the Arklatex, Shreveport, and Bossier City, streaming live throughout the greatest nation on the face of the earth, America. Joining me here in studio now is candidate for District 8, Louisiana House of Representatives, and he is back for the second time. Raymond Cruz, welcome back to CL Bryant Show.
Well, I tell you, it's a pleasure. Never thought I'd be here with you, but now the second time, I'm really enjoying this.
I'm glad you are, and certainly do wish you well. Let's get right into a question that was asked, and of course, there's two other candidates in the race that are going to come through. Three other candidates in the race that will be coming through here right soon. And as I always ask anyone, as far as running for office is concerned, Raymond, I'm going to ask you again because I want to refresh the people's memory on who you are and why you're running. Tell us, what do you want this job?
Well, I tell you, just like you mentioned in the last segment, I think a statesman is essential to be able to get our state and our country back the way it needs to be. Not someone who's had a desire and a motivation purely for politics, but someone who sees the best interests of the nation and the people of the state, and that's their first and foremost objective. And I've had that background. I've been in large companies, small companies, business owner, military, all these different backgrounds that I'm excited to funnel into this office. I actually was called to this office. I've never had this desire or intention prior to this point. I was a voter. I was engaged in terms of watching what was going on and making sure I was voting the right way, but I wasn't particularly interested in getting into the game. But just the past few years have changed all that for me. I've read a few books and articles that talked about the importance of making sure we're engaged in every aspect of society, and that's part of the reason I'm here. And then another part is the fact that I've got such a grassroots campaign. I've got people that encouraged me to run rather than me deciding and then going out and looking for help. And that's been a huge source of encouragement and support for me, is to know these people want to be represented by me. They think I reflect their values. They know I've got a Christian conservative background, and they want that down in Baton Rouge. And I couldn't be more pleased than to have that type of following and support along this trail.
Well acquitted. You acquitted yourself real good there. Let me ask you about this. Question came to me from one of our listeners, one of our many listeners. They're concerned about this Camp Minden ordeal, and they wanted me to specifically ask you your feelings on Camp Minden. You got the floor.
Well, I tell you, I've heard both sides of the issue. I went to a recent meeting about that. I've heard it over the years, and we got to hand it to them. They've done a pretty decent job of getting a burn chamber that works and all, and they've made this argument economically. But let's face it, it comes down to the people. What do the people want? So they can make all the argument they want on the financial viability of it and the safety of it, but if the people don't want it, I can't see how you could go against that. They put you in there to represent them. So the will of the people's got to be supreme in an issue like that.
Folks in Washington, D.C., you could take that message to heart, what he has just said. The people put you in office, and the true sense and the true meaning of a statesman is someone who comes from out of the people and is there to serve and carry out the will of his constituents. That is something that, as we go forward in this election season, especially headed toward midterm in 2018, we do need to pay close attention to that. Now, Raymond, I do want to sort of highlight your military career too. I know you as a humble man. I know you as a humble man, and you don't like to talk about that. Most guys who have worn the uniform are of the same type of ilk. But step out of that for just a minute. Tell us about your military background as well. That's important in this area.
Well, I tell you what, the thing I'm most excited about when it comes to talking about the military is the friends and relationships I've been able to make as part of that. We just had another campaign get together this weekend, And all my buddies in the reserves that were in the drill weekend, they were participating. They happened to be next door at the restaurant, and they all came by and said hi. They are lifelong friends, and that's just fantastic. But when you go through things that we did together, different challenges, different threats with the weather or combat or whatever, it just forms a team that you just can't form in a lot of other ways. So that's a real good aspect of it. Military-wise, of course, I felt a great devotion to my country, a duty to serve. Not only is it an exciting, fun thing, but it's a duty, and it's a privilege to be able to serve in that capacity. I was actually in active duty to begin with, and then in 1999, I separated from active duty. Thought it was about time to do something else, pursue another career, so I joined a major airline. We thought we were going to move somewhere else. We really did. We thought, hey, we can live anywhere in the country. Why don't we pick some place we like? And we found out we like Louisiana. We like the community. We like the church. We like the people. And at that time, over 20 years ago, the taxes really weren't that bad. It's hard to remember now, but that's the way it was. So we decided to stay in Louisiana. I joined the reserves right after 9/11, and then was deployed overseas in support of enduring Iraqi freedom and Afghan enduring. I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember the name of it. But those campaigns we operated out of Fairford in England, and then Diego Garcia.
Yeah,
just a great experience, but a very powerful experience in terms of realizing the whole country coming together to prosecute those campaigns.
Very good. And when we return with Raymond Cruz in our next segment, I was talking to him about the B-52, the readiness of our military. You know, here in Louisiana, Barksdale being the home of 2nd Bomb Wing, military, and of course Fort Polk right down the road, the military has always been very important to us. And as we're hearing the saber rattles of China, North Korea, and people around the world who now must test the new commander-in-chief of the United States, the most powerful position in the world. They must test him. And we need to be aware of the tools that we have as Americans to defend ourselves. That B-52 bomber has been, in fact, a staple for us over the last 50 years. I want to talk to Raymond Cruz, a military man pilot himself, when we return about the age of that B-52. Don't go anywhere. I'm CL. CL Tuesday here in the Arklatex, streaming nationwide throughout the greatest nation on the face of the earth, and that is America. Joining us is one of America's native sons and has worn the uniform of our nation in defense of it as a pilot. And we were talking about that B-52 bomber that sometimes if you're just the right place, the right time, headed for Bossier City or in Bossier City, you can actually see it flying. It's majestic. It is totally majestic. But Raymond, it's old, isn't it?
Yeah, that's older than I am.
Tell us this. Pardon me. Tell us this. That plane was produced in what, the 60s?
1960 and 61 are the ones we have in service right now.
And when a plane, is that good, bad? I mean, how do they upgrade them? They give them facelifts? What happens with that?
Yeah, there are pros and cons to being old. Of course, you know, the older you are, the more experienced you are. And in some ways, that's the advantage of the B-52.
Yeah.
Is it's can carry every weapon out there. They've adapted it to do all kinds of different missions. It's been low level, it's been high cruise, it's been cruise missiles, it's been close in gravity bombs, every kind of weapon you can imagine. Mines for the Navy,
Yeah.
You name it, they've adapted that weapon to it. Another advantage is older planes, they just had more crew stations. So on a B-52 right now, it's a 5-member crew, which is actually an advantage in many situations, such as clear air support when you need people listening to different radios and doing different functions. It's just a challenge to do that with just 1 or 2 crew members, but having 5 can make that easier. So it has those advantages, and there are also some things technology-wise. Some of our enemies' weapons have advanced. Well, those newer weapons are tuned to more modern airplane engine signatures and whatnot. So the B-52 actually has an advantage because it is older.
You can't read it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You know, I hadn't thought about that aspect of it, is that you can't read it. Let me ask you about a plane when it never loses its aerodynamic ability. Once it's built to fly.
It's built to fly, but I can tell you it can burn gas.
So that's one of the drawbacks.
It burns a ton of fuel, and that is a drawback. But they're again considering new engines.
Mm-hmm.
But there has been an advantage out of that before. We were actually asked in Afghanistan to orbit at an altitude where the enemy could see our contrails. So they would pick an altitude and say, "Hey, here's your best probability for contrails." And what do you think the enemy did when they saw contrails?
Wow.
They hid.
They went out.
They hid, so
Wow.
our people could move on the ground freely as long as they knew there's a B-52 overhead with the weapons to
That
do
is
some
amazing.
damage.
That's the side of Raymond Cruz, of course, folks, that I wanted you to see and hear. And then finally, Raymond, I want to once again ask you about why you're running, the statesmanship of it all, and the importance of securing this office for Raymond Cruz, and the reason why you're doing that.
Well, the absolute reason is door was open to me, and I've learned in times past that when the Lord opens a door, you go through it because the consequence is going to be worse. So he had something in mind for me here, and I've been encouraged the whole time knowing it's his plan because the people that have supported me, the finances that have come along, every aspect has just followed me there. Secondly, it's our duty, like I said earlier, it's a duty for us to take the reins when we get that opportunity. We're in such a position to help our state, help our country return really to its roots, to where the citizenry came and ran for office and then went back to their jobs.
Yeah.
And that's where I see myself right now. As I go, I do what I need to be doing, and if my job's done there, then I return to my regular job and do that full time.
Well, all the best to you. We will be hearing from the other 3 candidates in the race as time goes by, but Raymond Cruz is here today with me, District 8 candidate for Louisiana House of Representatives. And you've heard his opinions on Camp Mendon. He wants to serve the people and the people's position on that. And, of course, you got insight into his military career. Raymond, God bless. God keep you, man, as you go forward in this campaign.
It's been my pleasure, CL. Thank you.
Listen, folks, this is what we're looking for in a candidate, and Washington needs to understand this. We're looking for statesmen. And all the rest of you out there, all the other candidates out there, listen to me. We're looking for statesmen, not someone who has a good rap, but someone who means it. Are you hearing me? Not someone who is able to just make the rap, but someone who means it, who has purpose. Our people in Washington, D.C. need to understand that that is what we are looking for. We're looking for statesmen. I'm going to talk to you about the revolution. Yesterday, we mentioned the Civil War and how that might be brewing yet again here after 154 years have elapsed. We need to look at revolution that very well could be in the air around us in America. Friends, there is something going on in this country that is absolutely imperative that we pay attention to. Absolutely imperative that we pay attention to. I'm going to have some time with you today. I'm going to open up the phone lines so that we can talk about our nation. Our nation is in trouble. Our nation needs the attention of its citizenry in ways that we have not paid attention since the beginning of this country. Hear me. Tonight, there are some things we're going to touch upon that you want to take with you the rest of this week. Wherever you may go, chew on them. Think about it. I'm CL. Be right back.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway. Looking for adventure. And whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a love.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
CL back with you. Remember these words. Remember these words. They were said by Ronald Reagan. The closest thing to eternal life on this earth is a government program. Yeah, the closest thing to eternal life on this earth is a government program. Now, folks, you're going to be hearing in the next few days a lot of pro, a lot of con as far as what's going on with health care. Now, each and every one of us know that we get sick. We know that cancer, diabetes, all types of diseases are on the rise in this country, although they are making incredible strides with genomic treatment with cancer. My wife, Jane, you would not be able to tell that she had ever been ill, but she is a victor over that. But we still trust God for that. But the DNA type of treatments that they have in various forms are fantastic. But still, you have the health care concern. One of the reasons why you should pay close attention to health care and the health care concern is because not only do accidents happen, but like we previously said, all of us, our children, our parents, we get sick. And I'll open up the phone lines, 320-5335, 320-5335, 318-320-5335, if you want to talk about this. If, in fact, you want to understand how government can control you, let them control your doctor. Let them control your doctor. Coming up a little bit later on in the show, I'm waiting for Dr. Claire Gray to give us a call. Dr. Claire Gray, who is a wonderful, wonderful doctor renowned throughout America. You just wait until I get him on. The way they control, the surefire way for government to control you is to control your doctor. And without you being able to talk to your doctor in a way that government cannot control the conversation, you are then at the mercy of government, and so is the doctor. Now, understand that Medicare is basically insolvent, and Medicaid is basically insolvent. The problem with what the Republicans are presenting to the American people as a replacement for the Affordable Health Care program, the Obamacare, is something that will actually add to the tax burden of our young people down the road. It won't work, folks. Now, they're saying that, well, we're going to fix it in 3 stages. This is the first one that they're presenting now. Then there'll be a second stage where they're going to sell it across state lines. And then there'll be a third stage. I don't get it. Hey, just sit down, put your heads together, and do what you said you were going to do first. Repeal it. And I got to tell you, I am very much in favor of the mindset of Rand Paul on this. Have the vote to repeal, then have the vote to replace with something that you have given thought to. Let's not just throw something against the wall in order to carry out or keep a campaign promise. And folks, listen to me. Yes, I am very, very glad that we have a Republican president. But just because we have a Republican president, we should not, as I think it was Dave Bratt said, it may have been Mark Meadows said, we should not lower the bar of expectations. Just because we have a Republican president does not mean that we need to lower the bar to expectations. 320-5335, 318-320-5335. I'll take your calls a little bit later on in the show. I'm going to have as a guest here today Dr. Claire Gray. I want to talk about Obamacare and that they are presenting, the Obamacare that we know has been a burden to America, and where this is actually going with us. I'm CL, and this is the CL Bryant Show. We're going to be back in just a few minutes with also I'm looking at Billy Tucker. You see, there were some people that I started this journey with some 8 years ago, all around the country. And we, for such a time as this, were saying what was needed to be said back then. And finally, we've gotten here. Finally, we've gotten the presidency. Finally, we've gotten the House of Representatives and the Senate. This is the challenge, is to make sure that the friendships that exist between Nancy Pelosi and the establishment Republicans, the establishment Democrats and the establishment Republicans. Hear what I'm saying to you. We are running into something here. This president is not a politician, even though he identified himself as one. He's not a politician. And one thing he may not be understanding is that Nancy Pelosi, the establishment Democrats, and the establishment Republicans, they're friends. They are friends. And this sounds like something that's very friendly to the old regime. I'm CL. Be right back. CL, back with you on this Tuesday here in the jewel cities of the Arklatex, streaming nationwide throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, and that is America. I want to thank you folks up there in Wilmington, North Carolina, for joining us, as well as you folks in southern Arkansas and East Texas. Download the free CL Bryant Show, the CL Bryant Show. Go to your app store and download it onto your app, your iPhone or your Android device, or go to TheCLBryantShow.com. Follow me on Twitter at RevCLBryant. Folks, when we started this journey 8 years ago, there were several people around the nation who I became very good friends with. Joining me on the line now is one of those people. Her name is Billy Tucker. Billy Tucker was always a shaker and a mover there in the state of Florida and ultimately around the nation. She is an original grassroots activist. And Billy, I want to welcome you for the first time to the CL Bryant Show. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, thank you, CL. It's good to hear you on the radio. And I hope you've got tons and tons and tons, millions of listeners.
We
are. People need to hear your voice.
Thank you so much. We're building it, Billy, and I'd certainly like to come to Tallahassee there, and I'll talk to you about that. Not Tallahassee, but Jacksonville,
yeah.
Jacksonville, where you are.
You are more than welcome, and we will help you, buddy.
We're going to talk about that. Well, Billy, let me ask you this now. You have seen the news alerts and flashes on television here today, I'm certain. And there are some of us who are not exactly satisfied with what we are seeing. Give us your take on what we are seeing as far as this affordable health care replacement is concerned.
We're seeing vanilla Republicans. We are seeing people with no spine, and I wish I could say really what I want to say, but it was crude. They have no spine, and this is not what they told us they would do. And I hope that Donald Trump will see it for what it is and will not accept this kind of garbage that they're feeding us. This is ridiculous. I mean, I am so disappointed in the GOP. They have all the power right now to do whatever they need to do.
It's
been handed to them on a silver platter by 61 million people, by the way.
That's right.
And they're not doing anything about it. They're just wimps.
I was saying to the audience, Billy, a little bit earlier, that one of the things that we may forget is that when you have a Paul Ryan and a Nancy Pelosi, the establishment Democrats and the establishment Republicans in the same city, they become friends, and there becomes an establishment type of block that maybe we're not aware of. And I believe that the wrecking ball that we sent to Washington in the form of Donald Trump need to continue to be that wrecking ball, not to become the politician, but to become the statesman. What do you say?
I agree, and I tell you, I think he will. I have so much faith in the fact that I believe, CL, that he was anointed to be there because he came out of right field. He came out of right field. And he is, they were shocked that they lost. Oh, my gosh. It's an incredible story. It's a miracle beyond miracles.
Right.
So we cannot blow this. And I believe that Donald Trump will see it. He will see through it because I believe he is anointed, and he's not going to let them get away with this. I really do.
Billy,
there was.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
That's what I really.
Okay, go ahead.
That's what I really like about your insight is that you have been looking down the road to this moment when we would have the presidency, when we would have the House of Representatives, when we would have the Senate. We've been looking down this road since we started this journey together nearly 8 years ago. Now we have it. Like you said, we can't afford to blow this. We won't get another chance at this, will we?
No, we will never get another chance. And this is the time for people, everyone that's listening tonight, everybody that you can get the word out to needs to let POTUS know this is unacceptable. We need to make sure this does not pass. I don't care if they have to run with their tail between their legs. Maybe they will learn a valuable lesson about doing it right the first time. I'm a mother. I raised 2 children, and they're great American citizens, by the way. I mean, awesome. They have their own mortgages. They've paid their way. They went to college. They're living life. But let me tell you what, I didn't let them get away with being second at everything. And I don't mean like they
I
lost
understand.
things.
I understand.
But they had to be first. They had to try first to do the right thing. And we have a bunch of wimpy, like you're saying, they got mixed up with the wrong crowd. Let me tell you a story. My daughter was in middle school, first year in middle school. And in elementary school, she was great, straight A student. She was awesome. She goes to middle school. She gets hooked up with one girl that was not a good girl. And she started coming home, and she started acting weird, and she wasn't the kid that I had raised, and I had to take action.
Wow.
And what I did is I removed her from that environment, and I put her into a private place, private school, where she wasn't going to be around those kind of people. That's draining the swamp. I grabbed my daughter and pulled her out, and what we've got to have President Trump do is he's got to stay true to his promises and drain it, because Nancy Pelosi is in bed with Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan won't admit it. They're trying to be vanilla. You can't be vanilla. We have been dealing with such radical ideology. It is time for us to get radical ourselves and pull this country back over to where it belongs. We're so far left, it's ridiculous.
Here, here.
And these vanilla people that are up there are, they're more left than they are right. And 61 million people did not sign up for a vanilla. It looks just like the same
and that's the sad part about it, Billy. And you know what? You bring up a very interesting point in the example of your daughter. She was being contaminated. Yes. And yeah, she was being contaminated, and that's very easy to do. And the very idea of this being a swamp that needs to be drained, here being in Louisiana, where I grew up, we're very familiar with bayous and swamps. And there are reptiles in the swamp. Mm-hmm. And when you are trying to do that job of draining that swamp, you have to understand that there are things there that can poison you. There are things there that can bite you. And Billy, that was a very good analogy. You had to get her out of that situation. That's what we're trying to do with our country.
And I saved her. That was my job. My job as her mother was to make sure that she was given all the opportunities to have a great life. And she wasn't going to have it if I left her there. Same way, we have an opportunity and we have a responsibility to our nation as citizens of it, citizens to the United States of America, to protect it. And if there is something evil, something dangerous, we got to eradicate it. That's just the way it is, and that's what Trump is there to do. God bless him, man.
Absolutely.
I can't even imagine what he is going through. I know it's not easy.
No.
But as of tomorrow, let me share this. There's been a call out, especially for women, because tomorrow is this woman's women disappeared junk. You know? Well, guess what?
Yeah.
The other women on the other side of the aisle are going to fast like Esther. Tomorrow is Esther fasting, and we're going to do it for 2 days.
I love it.
And so I am calling out on your show right now for other women to join me in an Esther fast. Because we can all be queens of our nation. Women, CL, do you remember this story? It's got me so fired up. Do you remember that the Tea Party, most of the Tea Party groups across this nation were started by women?
That's true. That's absolutely true. And I was with Jenny Beth Martin initially, and then, of course, I became a surrogate with Freedom Works. Billy Tucker, I'm going to have to let you go there, but I want to thank you for coming on the show. Listen, Billy, got to have you on regular. God bless you. God keep you. And I tell you what, we're coming to Jacksonville. All righty.
You are. Hey, you seriously, call me when your show's over. I want to talk to you about that.
All righty then. I'm CL. We'll be right back.
You, and God bless America.
You too. I'm CL. We'll be right back. CL, back with you. Hey, you know, Billy said something that I think is very, very important. Billy Tucker, there in Jacksonville, Florida, said something that I think is incredibly important for us to remember. You know, sometimes when we realize that there is contamination taking place in your child, in your business, your church, and certainly your nation, you have to be moved to act. You have to be moved to act in order to slow the roll of the contamination. Now, I've said this before, and I think it's worth repeating, that when we're talking about draining a swamp, and you Louisianians, you folks in Florida, you folks there in Wilmington, North Carolina, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And throughout the Gulf Coast, where we're streaming live, you know that there are creatures in the swamp, reptiles, cold-blooded animals that have very little conscience. That's what you find in a swamp. They just simply want to survive as they've been surviving for eons. And when we look at Washington, D.C., when we look at the swamp that it has become, it has bred itself, especially within the last 100 years. It has bred and duplicated cold-blooded life that is important only to itself. Washington, D.C. Important only to itself, and it receives its own. Are you hearing me? It receives its own, and anyone who will become a part of that swamp and is willing to dwell in that cesspool. And so the message that we need to send to those who we have put in office is that we have sent you there now with the president who has the agenda to do it, to drain the swamp and make it into something lush. Make it into something that is lush, where we can, in fact, have different types of habitation, different life forms growing in a place that has a great foundation as far as the soil is concerned. Rich soil, but it's swampy. Oh, hey, folks, there's contaminants there that we're going to have to clean out. And the visual now, the visual that we got from, that we are getting from Washington, D.C. today, as far as Republicans keeping their promises, conservatives, so-called, keeping their promises, that visual was not good. The audio wasn't good either. What we were seeing and hearing was not good. And so the message that we must send now is no, take this back and come back with what you promised. Give me what you promised me. Give me what I voted for. Give me what we paid for. Because, friends, you can believe it or not, we paid. And we are going to pay even more if we allow them to feed this to us. What do they think? They think we're stupid? And are we going to continue allowing them to think that we're stupid? Can't they see that we can see that they are in bed with the people who ran this thing into the ground to begin with? Do they think we're stupid? Will we let them continue to believe that about us. They will if we let them do and get away with not keeping their word to the people they work for. That's you and me. 61 million votes were tallied in this last Republican sweep. And so that tells me something. That tells me that there are people who voted for change, not hope and change of the previous administration, but we wanted business to be conducted differently, so we hired a businessman who came to us, and I'm still believing this, in the form of a modern day statesman. And I want the president to understand that Washington, D.C. would love to make a politician out of him. Paul Ryan would love for him to become a politician. The Democrats would treat him much differently. They would love for him to become a politician. This thing that they're showing to us is the work of politicians. People who are used to others who share their reptilian ways. You said you're going to drain the swamp? Drain the swamp. Give me what you promised me. I'm CL. We'll be back. CL back with you. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth. That is America. 320-5335, 318-320-5335 is the number to call. Going to go to the phone lines now. Tom, thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. What's on your mind, friend?
Well, Mr. CL, so proud of everything that you're doing on the broadcast.
God bless
where
you.
you talk the conservative talk and you walk it as well. So congratulations. I was at the Counter-Republican Executive Committee meeting today, and then you had Alan Seabaugh and Beryl Peacock both addressing and kind of giving out what they think about the special session.
Yeah.
However, CL, the reason why I called, and I guess it's kind of selfish, but at the same time, I just want you to know you're invited to a brief getting together with me tomorrow night from 7 to 9 at Ernest Orleans to celebrate my 70th birthday.
Oh, well, Tom, yeah, I'll stick my head in the door for sure. I certainly will. I will
And
certainly do it.
that invitation is also open to everyone. I had people say, "Oh, I've heard about it. Am I invited?" And I said, yes. Everyone that I have ever interviewed, talked to, friends, worked with over the past 35 or so years in this market, you're all invited. It's just to come and go, and there'll be some cake that Ernest will do, but tomorrow night, 7 to 9 o'clock at Ernest Orleans, and we'll have a little celebration, some music from some of the local musicians. So I just wanted to invite you, sir, because you are a true vocal power when it comes to conservative radio.
Tom, let me take the time here just a minute to say this to you, man. You have been a very, whether you know it or not, but this is what I want to tell you, because sometimes you don't tell people who you need to thank you. And I need to thank you because you have been on the wall for a long time. And it is people like you who made folks like me think that maybe I can follow and be an example of what Tom has been doing for so long. Tom, you have been a pillar of this community, and I want to wish you a very happy 70th birthday. Yes, by all means, the good Lord willing and the creek don't rise. Yeah, you know. As soon as I leave here, I'm going to stick my head in the door. I'm going to bring my bride with me, and we're going to help you celebrate your 70th birthday. God bless you, man. And, hey, and I wish a Moses blessing upon you, man. Do 120 years, maybe 130.
I'm praying for that, CL, and God bless you in all that you do. You are such an inspiration to all those who need to hear their voices heard that were part of the 61 million that elected Donald Trump. So I say to you, continue, as you say, to fight the good fight, and may God bless you in all that you do.
Thank you, man. I'll see you tomorrow night, Tom.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's Tom Pace. That's Tom Pace, ladies and gentlemen, and you can hear him on our friend station, The Promise. The talk of the town. You can hear him on The Promise, our friend station. And yes, folks, you heard the open invitation. And I cannot think of a better man to honor than Tom Pace. Ernest, tomorrow night from 7 to 9, I believe he said. Jane and I are certainly going to go by and tip our hats to Tom Pace. Be there with me. Love to meet you. Now, folks, up in New York City, they are debating whether or not to continue giving teachers literacy qualifications in order to become teachers. Oh, man. Listen. Oh, you can't make this up. They are wanting to eliminate the literacy test for teachers. And I guess what that would mean by definition is that they are not really concerned about the literacy of the teacher, which translates into they don't care if she is qualified to teach. They are saying that what they would like to do by taking this step is to increase the pool to draw from as far as teachers are concerned in the state of New York, which just begs the question, what pool are you drawing from now, and what do you expect to improve upon by eliminating literacy test for the teacher? Oh my, folks, oh my goodness. Folks, I hope you understand the implication here. We're already turning out in public schools not the best product that we could turn out as Americans. We could turn out much better products. We did it in times past when we didn't have as much technological knowledge, but we did know reading, writing, and arithmetic. And down here in Louisiana, we called it the 3 R's, but and of course, writing does not, and arithmetic doesn't start R either. But just the same, we turned out better products back when we just were talking about reading, writing, and arithmetic. And here we are with knowledge at our fingertips, and I'm not too sure that's a part of our laziness, is having all this knowledge at our fingertips, and the only thing you have to do is learn how to read, and you can read anything that you want to read, but that does not make you literate. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, take this from me. I had a grandfather who was an incredibly intelligent man, but he was illiterate. He couldn't read his name on the back of this wall behind me. If you wrote it there in huge letters, if you wrote it in the sky, he would not be able to read his name. I guess eventually he learned how to write his name eventually. Yes, he did. But when he was coming along as a younger man, he could not read. He was illiterate, highly intelligent, but was illiterate. And unfortunately, illiteracy almost on the scale as it was back in my grandfather's day is the way it is now. But the thing that's on the table that we're arguing about is what? Not education. No, we're talking about Civil War brand racism is what we're wanting to talk about. And that's stupid because it's not that. We're wanting to talk about 1863 form of statehood and states and states' rights, when that's not the fight at all. I'll be back in a minute.
Here comes old Rose. She's looking at.
Yeah. Give us what you promised us. Give us what you promised. Give us what we're paying for. And I think hey, we're paying for teachers. They should be at least literate, don't you think, when they're going and teaching children? Because our children need to be able to compete, but they're not. If the teachers don't have to pass a literacy test, why then? What kind of tests are they going to be giving the kids? And where are those tests going to come from? Because, see, there was a time when the teachers actually had a strong enough grasp on what was going on in their particular class, whatever they were teaching, that they prepared their own test for their own students. And they were literate enough, they were qualified enough to grade that student on whether or not that student passed their class. So if the teacher becomes a person who does not have to endure, as they're saying these teachers are having endured a literacy test, they want that to be a thing of the past, then who is going to actually set the standard for the student in that class? Is it going to come from a generic pool of tests that is common core-ish in the sense that everybody is a star in the class simply because they participated? Everybody in the class is going to get a participation pass to the next grade? Is that where New York is headed? If it's headed there in New York, believe me, there are people who are going to mimic that. Now, in the midst of all of that, you heard Billy Tucker, my last guest, refer to this or allude to this. Tomorrow in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and also in Alexandria, Virginia, there is going to be basically a teacher walkout. Schools are going to be closed in Chapel Hill and in Alexandria, Virginia. The women teachers are calling it a day without a woman. Yeah, a day without a woman. So the schools are closed in those two cities. Rather large cities they are, Alexandria and Chapel Hill, rather large communities. Now, these women actually think that they are doing something, I think, they think is going to do something productive, but they're actually hurting other women, particularly working mothers who depend on that kid being in school during certain hours so that they don't have to have a sitter. But they'll go back the next day and try and share with the kids on how noble their walkout was. They're doing it to not only have a day without women, trying to show that community, their communities, what the world would be like without women. They're trying to protest the President Trump. But now, this is one thing, and women, please hear me right now, because I like everything about women. I have 3 daughters, and of course, I've been married to my wife for over 40 years. This is what I certainly hope that you understand about us as men. Any man who doesn't understand how empty, void his life is without the first woman and then a girlfriend or a wife or his daughters in his life, any man who reaches any level of maturity and doesn't understand, as James Brown once famously said in his song, It's a Man's World, he said, but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman or a girl. We know this. Any man who has any common sense know this. It wouldn't be nothing without a woman or a girl. So my point, past that point, is this. This political correctness and lunacy is affecting our nation in every possible way you can imagine. And I forget who, somebody was here as a guest of mine who said, no, I tell you who it was. It was one of our guests who's a movie producer. And I'll think of his name here in a minute. He was on with me just last week. But he was saying that progressive liberalism is a form of mental illness. Yeah. It's a form of mental illness. Because when you start thinking that by walking out of the classroom to have a day called a day without women to show the rest of us just how it is to be without women in your life, you're assuming that that the rest of us must be crazy. Yes, I'm in all agreement with women who want to get equal pay for equal work, equal pay, all that kind of. I'm all in. I use Hillary Clinton's phrase, deal me in with that. But this is a bridge too far. I'll be back. We'll talk more.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
The era of Obama may not be over. No. The era of Obama may not be over. He has not left Washington. In fact, it looks as though he is digging his heels in to have a shadow government third term. Gone, but not forgotten. And gone, but yet having his operatives running around in Washington, D.C. like little gremlins popping up, messing with the new administration in ways that I really hoped and had thought that the new administration would have seen coming, but he didn't. Why? Because he's not a politician. Gone, but not forgotten. Shadow government. The Obamas have a mansion there in Washington, D.C. that Valerie Jarrett has now taken up an office residence in that mansion. Wonder why? That's interesting. No, the era of Obama is not over. And the era of Obamacare, in the way that the Republicans are wanting to present it to us, is the same way that the Democrats presented it to us. No, the era of Obama is not over. I am reminded of the words of the former president of FreedomWorks, the organization that I am a senior fellow with, the organization that I'll be joining on the 15th on Capitol Hill, along with my good friend Senator Mike Lee from Utah, Rand Paul, Dave Bratt, Jim Jordan of Ohio. I'll be joining them on the 15th on Capitol Hill, and along with maybe, I think we were looking for 2,000, maybe 3,000 other activists from around the country is going to join us there. And we're going to pretty much say what I've been talking about here tonight on radio. I'm going to lend my voice to it. And that is, we want you to give us what you promised us. In fact, I think I probably have made them, given them a mantra. Give us what you promised us. And I think that's Rufus Thomas. But just the same, that is something that we want. That's something that we want to stop in this country, and that is politics. Now, I guess the phrase that goes along with being a politician is that basically I defined as some kind of lie teller. You don't necessarily be a politician. You can be a statesman. You can be a statesman. In fact, if I ever ran for office, I don't think I'd let them put that word out beside my name. I would want statesman out by my name. In the words of Matt Kibbe, former president of FreedomWorks, the organization that I'm a senior fellow with, he said this, and I have used this over and over and over for the last 7 years. Matt said that sometimes in order to defeat the Democrats, you have to first defeat the Republicans. Yeah. Sometimes, in order to defeat the Democrats, you must first defeat the Republicans. And yes, I know that you have good old boys who are defending this thing because they put it together. But that is not what you promised us. You ran on repeal and replace. Now, I started this show, and here we are in the home stretch. I started this show, and I want to bring this full circle, by saying to you that the worst thing that can happen in this country is for the American people, both Democrats and Republicans, black and white, young and old, to come to the conclusion, those who are voting age, that there is no Wizard of Oz in either party. There's just somebody behind the curtains pulling the strings. That's the worst thing that could happen in this country, is that the belief that there is something genuine in those that we send to office. If that belief dissipates, and it is doing it quickly, then, folks, I will say this to you. Revolution, not the civil war that's going on now between parties. You're going to have revolution. This election, in this past election with Bernie Sanders, and of course the eventual election of this president, this non-politician president that I hope, pray God, he never becomes a politician. He remains this modern day statesman that we wanted. With the demise of Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush, sent them packing because we knew what they were. But folks, revolution is in the air. The same type of revolution that founded a new nation. You threw off the shackles of those who were invasive in American life. It is true that the spirit of America is still alive. It's still alive. I'll be back.
Do you remember back in 1966? Country Jesus, Hillbilly Blues, that's why.
CL, back here to close it out on this Tuesday broadcasting from the jeweled cities of the Arklatex, streaming nationwide throughout the great nation of America. Folks, sometimes to defeat the Republicans, the Democrats, you must first defeat the Republicans. And the worst thing that can happen in this country at this point in time is to find out that there is no true Wizard of Oz. There's just some guy behind the curtain pulling strings, deceiving the people, making them believe in signs and wonders. Well, before I get too cynical here tonight, I just want you to be aware that there is, in fact, the hope of America in you. A nation that's founded on Judeo-Christian principles, so certainly the hope of the nation is in you, the citizens. Those of us who actually choose from among us people to represent us that we send to govern. And when we talk about govern, we don't mean to boss. The Obamacare package that we're talking about is dead on arrival. I don't see how it can pass. It's dead on arrival. But remember what I told you from the outset, because this, my friends, is certain. And Reagan said it just absolutely right. The closest thing, and this is what they are teaching so many of our young people to believe in, the gospel of government. The good news of government. It can give you eternal life on this earth if you believe in the good news of government. That is what the progressive liberals and too many Republicans are leading our young people on college campuses to believe. You did hear about that college professor who had her hair snatched in such a way because they wanted she was escorting a conservative speaker, had her hair snatched in such a way it injured her neck, maybe permanently. Where do people get the idea that if you don't agree with their political opinion, they have a right to do you bodily harm? Oh no. We have to start putting those people in jail for a long time. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's assault. You know, you can't assault. I don't care I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend with all that is within me your right to say it and my right to listen to you, even though I disagree with you. That's America. Whatever happened to that idea on college campuses? Let's have discussion. Let's have the forum for different opinions and ideas. Let's not just attack people and burn things down because we disagree with someone's opinion. Is that it? Is that why you don't want literacy among teachers anymore? So that you can just have vandals, mindless, unthinking people running around being spawned on the campuses of supposedly institutes of education? Is that what you want? No ideas, no forum for ideas, just some mindless crap that a government want you to believe without challenging it. That, my friends, and unfortunately, we as conservatives, we as Republicans, many times are called fascist, but it's the Democrats, and especially these students on college campuses who are exemplifying fascist behavior. I don't agree with you, so I beat you up. I don't want you to speak, so I beat you up. That is exactly what America was founded to be against. The First Amendment right that you have, the first freedom that is given to us in our Constitution, is the freedom of that expression, whether it's religious or otherwise. You have a right to speak, and I have a right to hear. And we all have a right to peacefully assemble. We're losing that, folks. Government is becoming God, and progressive liberalism is the altar that they're wanting you to worship at. I'm back in a minute to close it out. Thank you for coming along with us here today. I'm C.L. Bryant. This is the C.L. Bryant Show. And folks, government is not God, but they like for you to think that it is. Ronald Reagan, as I was saying earlier, said it best. The closest thing to eternal life on this earth is a government program. So they would want you to think. No, the closest thing to eternal life is eternal life. And I only believe that's through Jesus Christ, our Lord. But this is what I am saying to you. I am saying that Medicare, that so many people are dependent on, is insolvent. It's going to have to be shored up. But you have a base of people, you have a dwindling work base, and I think that is going to beef up here very soon with the creation of new opportunities for work in this country that didn't exist just a couple of months ago. It just didn't exist. Also, Social Security is insolvent. But we hope that with people coming hopefully into the workforce here very soon, we might be able to shore that up too. And if there has been a theme that we had want to send out to those who we have sent to Washington, D.C., and to our various state houses, our various governmental agencies throughout this nation, if there is one theme that we want to send to them tonight, it is these contained in these words. Just give us what you promised. Give us what you said you were going to do. And folks, when we understand that the strength of government does not rest in some faceless, unnamed individual called politician or called Washington, D.C., or entity called Washington, D.C., or called politician. When we understand that that power rests with us, we will be better off for it. Well, I want to thank the giver of that power, God, for bringing us to the close of yet another day. And I want to thank him for our men and women in uniform around the globe who defend our right to speak our minds. And until I'm able to talk to you again, I'm CL. And may God bless and keep you all.
Left behind, we'll stand by your side, and the bond